You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the November 1st, 2022 meeting of the Michigan City Common Council. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Good evening. Today is Tuesday, November 1st, 2022, our regular Common Council meeting for Michigan City, and I would like to call it to order by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag Ms. Dudley on the roll call.
Remember, turn the mic on. Mr. Dabney,
Present.
Mr. Fitzpatrick,
Present.
Mr. Mack,
Present.
Ms. Deutsch,
Present.
Mr. Don Prespolinski,
Present.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski,
Present.
Mr. Gene Simmons,
Present.
Ms. Zagus,
Present.
and Ms. Tillman. Present. We have 9 present and 0 absent.
All right, thank you. And I would like to welcome students from South Central High School here that are here with us this evening to learn about local government.
Yeah,
So I appreciate you being here. Yes.
Yeah, if I may, and welcome to the students. And I know you're sitting there, you're taking notes and, you're trying to gather all this information, but the city clerk right here is taking the minutes verbatim. So if you guys just want to get a copy of the minutes from them, it would be a lot easier. You can just sit back and enjoy the meeting and just tell your teacher you'll have them in a couple of days, okay? Yeah.
Or go on Facebook and watch it. You can do that too. So, all right, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Approval of hybrid Zoom October 18, 2022 council meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Don Privilinski and a second by Councilman Michael Mack. Ms. Dudley on the roll call.
Ms. Zagus,
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski,
Aye.
Ms. Tillman. Aye. Mr. Dabney,
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Mr. Mack,
Aye.
Ms. Deutsch,
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski,
Aye.
and Mr. Simmons.
Aye.
That's 9 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, thank you. Are there any reports of standing committees? Any reports of standing committees? All right, I have a report from the Public Health and Safety Committee, and I did send this out late, so you all will get this probably tomorrow in your email. Meeting was called to order by Angie Nelson Deitch at 6:02 on October 27th. Council members present: Gene Simmons, member of the committee; Sean Fitzpatrick, Don Privilinski, Tracy Tillman, and Dahlia Gigas. And Councilman Paul was there for the previous meeting as well. There were no formal actions or recommendations taken, but there were several key points of discussion that were addressed. So I'm just reading this, you don't have it. One was the fee structure around the fire inspection fees and what surrounding towns are doing. Is the fee enough? Should it be tiered based on size and scope of inspection? We discussed late fees and collections. Approximately $8,000 to $9,000 in delinquencies for the year 2021 and 2022 each. 3 notifications are sent out for delinquent business owners. Discussion on establishing late fees and court penalty fee for business owners. Then there was a discussion on utilizing the future non-reverting fund for public education programs like CPR training, also offering free fire and carbon monoxide detectors utilizing this fund. The fire department will provide a more in-depth analysis of the surrounding communities, and the meeting was adjourned at 6:40 p.m. All right, Finance Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. The City Finance Committee did not meet due to that there was no claims to report from the Riverboat or from Board of Works. I'm sorry, Board Development. I would also like to add that the fiscal year to date, October 27, 2022, the Riverboat Statement of Cash position is $3,968,527.92.
All right, thank you. So we, on our November 1st, 2022 claims docket, there are no claims to be approved. Any reports of special or select committees? No reports of special or select committees? All right, well, our first report from city officers or other departments will be from Mrs. Janet Buechner on the ARPA nonprofit grants. And just for a point of order, and we'll take privilege at both of these presentations, that we will allow comments from the council, but also I think it's important that we allow for the grants. I know there are several organizations that are here that may have some questions, and I will ask the council if it's their pleasure, if we will allow public comment on these, since it's important to the public versus waiting to the end of the council meeting. Anyone opposed to that? All right, I'll give you the floor.
Okay, good evening to the council members, and I am Janet Buechner, and usually I'm here as the Promise Scholarship Director, but I will briefly explain how I ended up working with the not-for-profit grants. Earlier in the year, there were a lot of meetings in regards to the ARPA funds. After one of the meetings, Maggie Sparts came to the office and spoke to me about if I would be willing to work with the Unity Foundation on getting things going for the not-for-profits. Initially, I told her no, but then thought about it, and I volunteer for many other things. I could also volunteer for this. So I have tried as much as possible to work on it outside of my regular work duties. So that's how all of that happened. I started to research other cities' grants that they used for their not-for-profits, looking at their examples, kind of following their guidelines, working with Andy Mouser of Baker Tilly to make sure we were covering everything we needed to, and then working with the Unity Foundation. The Unity Foundation is not administering the grant. That is coming from the city, but the Unity Foundation is providing us the online portal to use. And that way it will make it easier for the committee. Everything will be online. Through the ARPA committee, we decided that the grants would range from $2,000 to $50,000, a total of $1 million, but divided into 2 cycles. So we're getting ready for that first cycle right now. I'd hope to have the press release out today. November 1st was our target date, but we ran into a few technical issues today. There's been a lot of back and forth. I realized at 5 o'clock this morning when I looked at the Unity Foundation site, it was not working yet. So we've gone back and forth. There's still, I think, just one more thing that we need to correct just to make it, you can find everything you need, but it's a little difficult. So still working. Shannon Walker at the Unity Foundation, her and I have, I think, gone back and forth probably at least 20 times today, trying to get things working, but we're getting very, very close. So my hope is tomorrow, after I finish visiting the high school for the Promise Scholarship, at lunchtime, I will be able to get the press release out. So there are a lot of guidelines. The not-for-profits have to have been in existence before the official COVID start, a year before. I do have, there's like 4 pages of guidelines. So I hope that the organizations will read through those. I do realize there's probably going to be a lot of questions, but the online application saves us a lot of time in that it will verify their not-for-profit status, when they were formed, all of the taxpayer ID numbers we need. Also, if they don't fill in a spot, we don't have to manually go through and say, you know, you need to go back to number 5. It will send them an email. The Unity Foundation, as soon as I give them the okay to send out the press release, will do a mass mailing to all the not-for-profits. So that will be very helpful. So they're providing us the technical assistance and the platform. But ultimately, this will then go to a committee of 5 people who will go through and make the decisions. The timeline is that all of the grant applications for this first round of $500,000 will be turned in by December 20th. So the committee can then start to meet in January, hopefully make decisions by February, and that the awards can be announced in March. So this first round, I've never really done anything quite like this before. So I look back and I think I started in May or so, and it seems like it's taken forever, but it's really been a lot to get everything in place. And I hope everything goes smoothly as soon as we get that last technical problem completed. And hopefully a press release will go out tomorrow, and I'll send that out to all of you. So any questions or yes?
Yes, Councilwoman Degas.
I just want you to explain that who the commission is that's going to make the decisions on this.
Okay, the actual members of the committee?
Yes.
And it's not us.
Oh, correct. Yeah, and that was one of the things that at the very beginning, when I started researching this, it will not be from the ARPA committee or from the council. They're community members. I think one doesn't live in Michigan City, but works in Michigan City. And also I was trying to find people who weren't too involved in organizations, because you won't be able to vote on any organization that you're involved in. So I was trying to get kind of non-biased members to serve on that committee. The wonderful thing about having everything online is those committee members will be able to review the applications, go through the checklist, and we won't have to spend a lot of time meeting. I personally am not on the committee. I didn't want to be, but kind of be the go-between between the committee, the ARPA committee, and the council to bring all of this together.
Yes, Councilman Dunn.
Yeah, who is on the committee?
Okay, right now we still have one opening. Aaron Garrett, who's from the high school. And one of the stipulations is the schools are not eligible. Rose Tahita, she's involved with the Lebesnick Center. Rudy Cohn, who had been on the Enrichment Corporation, so he's had experience in the grant process and evaluation. And then Charmaine Kalk, who recently retired from the LaPorte County Parks Department. She's been a longtime Michigan City resident, also has a degree in accounting, so those skills will be good. And then I have one more spot. I had someone, but they backed out. So I have one more spot to fill, but I have a little time yet.
Yes, Councilwoman Tracy.
I just have two. Thank you, Madam President. And one is, so any nonprofit that chooses to utilize this, how often can they apply for these grants?
They
Is it
can
one time or
they can apply for both cycles.
for both cycles?
Mhm.
Okay.
That's our plan. Mhm.
And the only portal will be through the Unity website or
For the Unity
through the Unity? I'm sorry.
Foundation, yes.
Okay.
We thought about doing paper grants, but that gets a bit cumbersome. And if someone needs assistance, the Unity Foundation has workshops for assistance and Zoom links that we could use if we need to have, some online training. It's pretty user friendly, so which is good.
Yeah, and most of the nonprofits in the region have already used the Unity Foundation platform, and also the Healthcare Foundation uses the same platform. So it should be pretty intuitive.
Mhm.
Any additional questions for Janet? I do have one. So do we know when is the second cycle? Because for $50,000 and $500,000, 10 organizations could eat that up real quick.
They could. Initially, we were going to make the awards in March and then start the next cycle in June. But we might delay that a little bit, but I think ideally we would have all the funds distributed by December 2023. I think that's a reasonable goal, maybe a little bit earlier. I put to be announced because I want to make sure everything goes smoothly, that our timeline for this was good, and kind of use the same timeline for the next one.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna allow public comment if anyone has any questions from the audience. I don't know if anybody does, but I'll open it up for any comments from the audience if there are any.
And I should mention, I did make a few copies of the guidelines, not a lot, but if anyone was here tonight and would like a hard copy, I've got a few copies.
All right,
I'd
thank
be
you.
happy to give out.
All right, no comment. Well, you have to come to the microphone, state your name and address.
Sure.
Hi, Sophie.
Hello, I'm with LaPorte County Habitat for Humanity, Sophia Coleman, 7 Muirfield Drive, Michigan City. And my question was, how much money was originally allocated to Michigan City from the ARP fund?
16.5 approximately.
So will any more be allocated towards non-for-profits?
Who knows?
Oh, it's a
So
mystery.
let me say this, we've already appropriated a substantial amount of our money for different projects already. This $1 million was done a few months back.
Yeah,
I think we have about 6, the controller's here, about $4 million left in our appropriation out of the $16 million. So it just depends. I know we have some infrastructure things, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
okay, thanks, that's it.
Thank you. Any additional questions from the public?
Tommy Clobber, 1316 Ohio Street. I just want these nonprofits to know that in addition to the RP funds, we also have the Michigan City Community Enrichment Grant, where he receives $750,000 a year from our agreement with the Boyd Development Fund, $100,000 of which goes to the Washington Park Zoo. That means that there's open up for $650,000 for the rest of these nonprofits that can apply for their grants and whatnot. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Calabi. Any additional comments? All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Buettner, for that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next on our agenda, we have Matt Reardon from the LaPorte County Redevelopment Commission, LaPorte County Redevelopment Commission Coordinator, to give us an update on the project requiring some infrastructure.
Thank you, Madam President, council members. Matt Reardon with the LaPorte County Redevelopment Commission. As the council may be aware, from time to time, the Redevelopment Commission expends funds for public utilities, and those utilities usually are your utilities. In some instances, they've actually also been the city of LaPorte's. The council, or the commissioners rather, created a couple of tax increment finance areas of redevelopment project areas that are adjacent to Michigan City. And the first one I think everybody's aware of is 421 and 94. And with that project, the county allocated about $5 million in infrastructure funds to extend sewer and water to the south side of the expressway. And with that project, like the other project I'll address a little bit later, the zoning wasn't changed, and it's a highway commercial zoning. So effectively what we did was pay for utilities that are owned and operated by the city of Michigan City, and then offer those utilities to whoever comes to the location. So we collect the new taxes that are there and use those funds to pay back the debt, which is, I'm sure the council's familiar with TIF and TIF financing, and you've probably got enough of it and heard enough of it as of late. And you have several projects ongoing in the community as well. So 2019, and before I go any further, let me introduce Tony Rodriguez. He's there sitting in the audience. And he's the executive director of economic development, community development for the county. So I work with Tony, but this is a specialized area for redevelopment. So
And before you go on with the project, the reason why I asked Mr. Reardon to be here too, we had a conversation, and most of you don't know, there's been some conversations that the mayor, and I was in the original meeting, and was brought to my attention that it was said that we need a resolution from the council for them to be able to move forward, when I know that's not true. So I asked him to give us an update on the project, and then we can ask any questions or make any comments. But truly, our role with the council is not to prohibit any development outside of the city of Michigan City. That's not our role. So I just want to make sure we make that clear that as a body, we're not stopping fair trade of any sort or any competition. First of all, it's against the law, but I know there have been some comments made. So I just wanted to make sure that the public understood what was happening and what they're trying to do. Because I know that our liaison has been at meetings with the sanitary district where the mayor told them not to extend any water or sewer. And then it's also been stated that the annexation ordinance that we created prohibits some things, and it's not prohibited. All it is asking that they not remonstrate into the future. So I want to make sure that everybody knew what was happening, so that it's open, it's public record, and everybody can ask questions, and there's no other issues from the council, so that you can move forward and do what you need to do. So I'll turn it back over to you.
You got to answer questions? No, I'm just kidding. I'm sure people are wondering, why is the county standing here? Well, we're here because we're trying to just to make sure that we're making sure that everybody has the clear information about the projects and what we're talking about. So 421 and 94 was done quite a while ago. And, the process was this. County says, hey, we have interest in people doing development at the interchange. We don't have utilities at the interchange. What are we going to do about that? So I think, not to pick on Don, but Don was a member of the County Redevelopment Commission at the time. We began discussions of why aren't we going to service this area, because nothing can happen. So through a federal grant that was received through tax increment financing money, we connected into what Michigan City had done with their improvements on along Cleveland. So brought the utilities across, and I think everybody can see what's there now. You got a nice hospital. I know that the Holiday Properties built this pretty significant development there, and that continues. And all of those are users of the sanitary and water, and those are fee payers to the system. And those expenses were undertaken by collection of tax increment and putting it back in there. And so in 2019, we started with the discussion of what's happening at 35 in the gateway to Indiana. And the answer was nothing much. There, again, the same challenge. There weren't public utilities there. And I make it a practice to try and focus development when and where utilities are available and at least are adjacent. So, you try and minimize urban sprawl and things like that. It makes sense. And it's certainly more cost effective. As a result, 35 and 94 is adjacent to Michigan City, obviously, and there's 20. And so there's a lot of different access points to get there. So we're like, why isn't development happening, or what's going on? And the fact of the matter is there were utilities there. There's no water and there's no sewer. And 2019, we started with a draft plan area that really includes the interchange, and it's available online, and I can send you all links if you want. It's a big fat file, and I didn't really want to kill 100 trees in the process. But we've had two developments come to us directly. One of them was off Muir Road on 20, and we included that development opportunity in the plan. And the other one was south on US 20. And the request of the developer was, I need municipal sewer and water. We said, okay, well, we need you, developer, to pay for a bond issue, and we will reimburse you over time with new tax increment. The county council also agreed to contribute up to 1.5 million of ARP funds for the project. And as the council's aware, I think you guys had your own set of ARP funds. It's one of the four items contained within the federal statute directly says water and sewer. This is water and sewer. So in our process, we began preliminary discussions with water department and your sanitary department. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, here's the plan. Here's the plan area. Here's where the utilities might go. This is the project. What size of utilities should we have? Should be designed so that other consumers can catch on and be ratepayers. And that's when the project stopped. I was informed that there's not going to be an availability of utilities to be extended. So with that being said, the developer had no interest in trying to do well and septic. And quite frankly, I don't think the county would have moved forward with the project on well and septic at that location just because there was an availability. All right. So kind of getting to the point here. I don't know where we stand as far as permission and or process related to information we received from the executive of the city, and also with regard to the ordinance that was passed by this body. So I guess where just general economic development thought, if the county's doing a redevelopment project area, okay, so if I just draw a circle, and then the city's going to be part of that circle after the fact, there would be an outstanding debt for the circle, if you will. And we would ask that the council consider the financial participation in, I'm going to just call it the circle, so that we can pay off the utilities faster so that everybody can get the tax revenue. So that would be the only kind of sticking point. And this, like an annexation, and now they're largely voluntary, but there was a case, it happened, and of course it happened in Lake County. It might have happened somewhere else, but Hobart annexed Lake County, and it annexed the mall, and it was a lot. And there was a big fight about it. And after the fact, I think the city was happy because it included a lot of developable land. So I guess what I'm saying is that when that occurred, that particular jurisdiction had a plan to annex 9 square miles, not a project, but had a plan to do 9 square miles and an idea of what they wanted to do. And consistent with that was also the thought that as a revenue stream to this particular city, and it is an ability to kind of keep your rates low within the jurisdiction, I have more customers. And that's what they did. So I got a bunch more customers. They're on their systems. I think at the time, GSD was is a sanitary district provider with the city being in the middle. And at the time it was City of Gary Water, now since been Indiana American Water. Anyway, that was the point. They had a plan for the area. They had an idea of what they wanted to have zoned, and they moved forward with that, which, they at the time, the county, for whatever reason, or whatever reasons people don't want annexation, they didn't want it. But anyway, it went through. What we're here to do is work cooperatively with the city of Michigan City, whether that's the executive and certainly the executive body, and you're the fiduciary. So the offer, I guess, on the table is pretty clear. The county, through ARPA and TIF, would fund utilities on the south side of the interchange to a size and scope agreed to by the water department and the sanitary department, which is the same process that was utilized to do this under 421 and 94. There was some suggestion that there's ongoing cost or legacy cost associated with extending utilities. And to that, I would say, well, in the rate is the cost to maintain and operate your utilities. So when you're charging more for use of your utilities outside your jurisdiction, obviously you're not only making up the cost to operate and maintain your assets, but you're also making a little bit more revenue. And if I could just take it one step further, I think the selling of water utility certainly could be a financial vehicle that you may want to consider, and that's only based on my experience in discussions with the city of Hammond. Similar city on the lake, little bigger, but they have Lake Michigan Water, like the city of Michigan City does, and that has become a solid and consistent source of financial resources for the city of Hammond. And they seem to have a lot of happy customers because when you're able to sell water and get Lake Michigan water, you're a little bit happier than some of the alternatives. So again, I just want to leave the council with this. What we want to do is participate with your departments and proceed forward. The county aren't in the annexation business at all. I mean, we don't. That's kind of in between the city and the landowner. There's going to be some requirements that are in the annexation statute that you have to meet. That's something on the city to consider. We'd only ask that if there's tax ramifications as a result of an annexation, that the city consider utilizing any of those funds that were received as a result of the annexation to retire the debt sooner, so that all the overlapping units could then add that to their prospective funds.
Awesome. Thank you for that, because I know we have a few questions, and as you were talking about it made me think about a joint development agreement at some time in the future and having that conversation. But I will say that I know with our ordinance that we will have an amendment to our ordinance that we passed probably on the next agenda or so to clean up some language, because I've had several questions that have come in reference to, local municipalities that already exist.
Yeah.
Future owners of the said property. So we will clean that language up. And I know we have Attorney Nick Snow here, but we also have Jewel on the line in case there's any questions. But I will first hit Councilwoman Dahlia Jigas. Any questions you might have?
Yes, so I kind of lost track of what project you're talking about this deal for, because you went 20th and Mirror, and then and then is this which project are we talking about?
That 35 and 94. It's off of US 20.
I just wanted to know that.
Right. So it's and I'll tell you the council this, and there's approximately $80 million worth of projects that have been signed up, pending the resolution of how to get the water there. And they're all different circumstances, if you can believe it. One of them is anyway, they're all different circumstances, but they all require extension of water and sanitary in order for the investment to occur. All three of them. And again, so this one specifically is 35, but it's all germane, because if your ordinance says that things have to happen, one of them would not occur at all. The other one is a circumstance where previous investment has occurred and it's property adjacent to something that's already been built, and the other one doesn't have any. So you kind of I have a smattering of all three to kind of to put up against or review the ordinance with.
So with that being said, I do have what signing a pre-agreement, what does that stop? That doesn't stop development.
Well, no.
Oh, okay. When it sounded like that was a hindrance.
I guess. Well, as long as if I have a clear understanding that there's no prohibition to us approaching water and sanitary saying, we're going to pay for these utilities, we're going to design them to your spec, we're going to work with you, we're going to pay to put them in the ground, you're going to get them and operate them. We'll work cooperatively with the county water sewer district. They will cede authority, so to speak, of the area, similar to what we did at 421 and 94, because they're technically have a service territory. So I guess nothing would be stopping us right now, except for kind of some of the tweaks I believe will be made to your ordinance.
Okay, perfect. Councilman Bryant Dabney.
So quick question. I mean, I've been talking about this for a long time in regards to us having or extending our services out and having, so now it sounds like you guys are going to pay for the utilities to be extended out, but you guys are going to collect the taxes in the end. These are going to be tax revenues for the county. Well, I want to see annexation where they come into Michigan City and be.
I think the county would be fine if the city wanted to annex and spend all the money to do the utilities on their own. Right. I don't think that would be a problem with them. I think we're talking about the immediacy of an opportunity here. Yeah. I think it has to do with how the revenue stream comes in. Right. What the county has done with the tax revenue that you're talking about, Councilman, they put it back into retiring debt in the district for the extension of utilities they don't own or control,
Right.
but you guys do. The city does.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look out for the long-term fiscal, status of the city. I mean, are we gonna collect property taxes, or how are we gonna fit into this whole thing? We're talking about deals being made. I haven't been in the conversation to be able to ask these questions, so I hate to.
No, I think anytime you add assessed valuation to your city, you're pushing down the tax rate. You have tax caps, 1% for residential, 2% for rental and farms, and 3% for business. That's it. That's never going to get any higher. And all you're going to do by collecting more assessed valuation and getting more revenue is you're going to affect two funds, cumulative capital development funds in your city. Those are the only funds that get positively impacted by more assessed valuation. So the more you get in, the lower the rates, but I would submit you're never going to get below 1% on residential under any circumstances. If you quadrupled the size of Michigan City and Amazon built a headquarters on the lakefront, I don't think you get less than that.
I agree. So thank you for that. Councilman Don Pribulinski.
Yeah, Mr. Reardon, thanks for coming tonight. Madam President, thanks for inviting them so we could talk about this item. The most I've heard about this whole project is that the mayor was against it, and when he showed up at the sanitary district meeting, which I attended that night, he said that the sanitary district would not be extending sewers out to that area under no conditions. So I'm glad you came and you explained what's going on out there. And I think that the city, we need to have a workshop with the mayor and see why he thinks the way he does and why he doesn't want to do this. So we can get off ground zero here and, we're either going to do a project or we're not going to do a project, but at least we have to have the facts of why we're going to do it or why we're not going to do it. Instead of just fumbling around with the football and not trying to score a touch.
Well, that's why I asked him here, because I don't want to go back and forth. I think they wasted 2 meetings already. And nothing was accomplished in the meetings as far as I can. The first meeting, definitely not. Second meeting, I think it was a repeat of the first meeting.
It's led me to come here and have this discussion. So I'll take that as a positive, but we do have 3 different projects. So I'm directly impacted by the ability to have water and sewer. And if, again, that's where we're at. And,
and I was told that you were, I wasn't there. I was told that that a resolution was needed from the council to put this.
I wasn't aware of what the mechanism was. The council passed an ordinance, a law. So I said, well, what's the okay, or who gives the okay, or how do I get an okay? I mean, under different circumstances, you would, address the, hey, utility person, this is a project. This is what happens. Utility person, gives information, goes up the chain, down the chain.
The only thing that is required, and Attorney Harris is on, and I don't know, Attorney Nick, if you have any comments, but there's no approval for the project. All it is you signing the waiver. That's it from us. The waiver of annexation into the future.
So that would be, can I ask a couple of questions?
Yeah.
Okay. So who signs the waiver? All the users of the utilities? Would that be how it works? So let's just stick with 35 and.
Well, I will say this. I talked to Attorney Harris earlier, and those questions, I do believe is a meeting that we need to have.
All right.
Because the waiver is not prohibiting the development for sure. I can tell you that.
Right.
But I think those specific questions, and we have several other local towns that have projects that are happening that called me on Thursday and Friday of last week. So I think that's something that we have that discussion and have a workshop specifically on that. Not on your project per se.
Just generally speaking.
Just generally speaking, so that we can resolve it. And we'll get that scheduled so that we all understand and make sure we have all of our documentation and any amendments we need to make ready for our next meeting.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure. I talked to Attorney Harris earlier today about it. He said, "Oh, let's just get get a meeting together and have that discussion.
Yeah, I was trying to go through the mechanics of, okay, now who do I have to get to sign
Yeah.
this? Who signs it?
We won't know all that.
Okay.
Skylar York will be in that meeting,
Okay.
Attorney Harris, and we'll just do it in a workshop setting.
Yeah, because then once we know that, then we can inform whoever. Here's what you have to do. Here's what happens. Here's how this works. Are you going to be annexed? I don't know, but what I do know is you sign the waiver. So let's move on.
Madam President, if I could, just so I'm clear, are we going to have all the stakeholders participate in that workshop? Because it probably would make sense to get everybody at the table, someone from the mayor's office, someone from sanitary, just so we're all clear. I mean, in the end, I think that's what was the motivation behind this ordinance, is to just create good government, right? To make sure that we're dealing with issues on the front end as opposed to being forced as a council to deal with them on the back end. But I've had a brief discussion with Mr. Reardon about this, and I've expressed our willingness to talk with him, meet with him, and kind of get this thing hashed out.
All right, thank you. So we'll get that on the books. Yes, Councilman Dunn.
Yeah, Mr. Reardon, the third project, I have 35 and 94, and 94 and 421. What was the third
There's
project?
3 projects at
Three
best.
projects today. There's one that's north of the expressway, south of 400 in that area, kind of by the hospital going east. And then there's another project within the corporate boundaries that includes a municipality that you have, all related to sewer and water, all that need it. And I said they're all different kinds. One of them you already serve, technically. The other one is served by the county through previous investment made by the county, is served by the city through previous investment made by the county. And the third one isn't served yet and needs to be designed. The route needs to be determined, and the sizing needs to be done and needs to be designed before it gets bid or bonds would be issued or the ARP funds would be expended. So one of them, we know pretty well what's happening. The other one, we're probably 90% sure of the potential development because the design and thought has gone into it, and there's utilities adjacent. And the third one, the 35 and 94, we don't know what it cost at this time. It hasn't been designed, but using 421 and 94 as a barometer, somewhere around 5 million and maybe less.
All right, any additional questions from council? All right, thank you.
On behalf of Tony and I, thank you very much.
And I'll get that scheduled, and I'll check with you on your schedule.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank you. All right. Ms. Dudley, any petitions?
There are no petitions this
Mrs.
evening.
Dudley, any communications?
There are no communications this evening.
All right, thank you. Our first resolution by title only.
A resolution by title only authorizing the waiver of permit fees for fees for renovation of the old Brown Mackey building owned by the Michigan City Area Schools. And this is introduced by Ms. Deutsch.
Yes, and this resolution is for the Brown Mackey building that will be hosting the soon to be early childhood education location for Michigan City Area Schools. I know there's someone from Michigan City Area Schools here. I don't know if they want to make a few comments. Please step forward, state your name, title, address, and what you do.
Good evening, Kevin McGuire with Michigan City Area Schools, 696 South 500 West, Chief Financial Officer for Michigan City Area Schools. As Madam President mentioned, Brown Mackey has recently been purchased by the school system, previously owned by the courthouse. We plan on doing a pre-K facility there, 5 classrooms for pre-K as we move forward, as well as offering CTE classes out of that location in the very near future, with the opening being in sometime 24-25 school year.
Awesome. Any additional questions from the public? Questions from the public?
Oh yeah, Tommy Club at 1316 Ohio Street. I'm very excited about this project. I was really excited when they first heard for the purpose they were going to acquire this building. All this simply means we're now going to establish a 4th tier of our public education system, in which my kids are all going to totally dominate. We're going to go all the way from pre-K all the way to graduation day. I'd like to see this no longer be named the Brown Mackey. I'd like for the school system to come up with a prominent educator to name this facility after Brown Mackey. They went bankrupt years ago. I just feel this ought to be go ahead and move to third reading and it ought to be unanimously passed and voted on. Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy. It's a resolution, so we're gonna do the vote tonight. Any additional questions from the public? Any additional comments from the public? Comments from the council?
Yeah, Madam President, I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor.
All right. Yes, Councilman Paul?
I would like to know how much money did the school system get in ARP money? Did they get something like 16 million?
20 something.
I don't have the exact figures with me, but not ARP ESSER dollars, as we refer to them as.
Okay.
We're in the tune of over 20 million total.
Okay.
Yeah, 23 is about.
So the reason I bring that up is because, we were going to use $500,000 out of the Boyd Development Fund when there's money sitting there, and I would imagine that it can be used for this purpose. And also, then when we have a problem with getting officers as resource officers, that on provision C, that we're not going to, they're going to get a waiver on paying for the resource officer for the school system when we don't have enough officers to patrol our streets. So I think that the way it is at this time, I really have a apprehension on this thing, and I think that we all need to step back and say, why are we giving 500,000 of the Boyd Development Fund when you guys have resources? I can understand that it was done in the past. I know it was done in the past, that the city gave school system money for IT hardware, and but I think we're at a different juncture in time with this money that the school system has, and it's a good gesture. But on the other hand, should we also be thinking, since I constantly keep hearing that we don't have enough officers, should the school system be looking at hiring their own resource officer and security? Because we don't have enough, we cannot get enough candidates, to come to Michigan City and to get our forces up to the level that the chief wants.
That's a comment.
That's a good point. We don't have an officer here this evening. So you guys can think about doing this or coming back with something else, but I think at this time that the school system has plenty enough money to fund this program.
Okay.
When the city of Michigan City can be using this for something else. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll make a comment. So all of those whereases are previously funded items that have already been funded and established. This resolution is for the waiver of $24,832 for building permits. The items that were just mentioned were things that we have already, that we've already appropriated years past. So what we're asking for is a waiver of the permit fees for the Brown Mackey building for the Early Childhood Education Center that they're establishing, knowing that Michigan City has a need for 600 early childhood education slots, quality education slots for Michigan City. And I know there's a feasibility study being done right now as we speak, and I know the school system is partnering, is a part of that steering committee along with some daycare providers. So again, this resolution is specifically for the waiver of $24,832. Any additional comments from the council?
Yeah, Madam Chairman. Yeah, I mean, whatever we can do for the Michigan City area school system, I believe that, it's our responsibility. We need to step up and help them out. And $24,000 in the big picture, to me, is not a lot of money. I mean, we sat here, I don't know, 2 years ago when we granted the county to not charge them $200,000 for building permits. And I didn't think that was proper. I thought the city could have used $200,000 in our inspection department, but the council voted 8-1 on that. And that was the only no vote. But when it comes to education, I have no problem whatsoever in helping the school system out, making sure that the future generations of this city are going to come out ahead and trying to, and for us to prove to them that we're trying to do the very best we can to help them out.
Thank you. Councilman Mack.
Just to say I'm 100% for this, and it's exciting to me to see the city begin to partner. And I'd like to see much more of it to go on, because to me, it's not so much about education. It's about skill building, and that pre-K is proven. I'm reading a book called The Parent Trap, and it's how we don't give enough credence to the needs of children from 2, 3, 4, 5 up before they get to kindergarten. These kids go to kindergarten and there's a gap of skills at kindergarten, and that gap stays the rest of your life. What they find is that once teachers, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers, and so on, once they get these children, the increments of growth are the same, because they've got the same set of teachers and professionals pushing these skills. But if a child starts at 3 years old behind, all of the social norms of being behind everybody follows them forever. So whatever we can do to begin early childhood skills and training for all of the kids in our city is immediately the most urgent thing we should do, in my mind. And the feasibility study, you mentioned that the school's going to do that. And at some point later, I'm going to have a discussion about our ARP funding and a feasibility study on the athletic and community center, which I got some bad news today that it's pretty much on the shelf. They're absolutely, I spoke to some people and I thought it was beginning to start. I spoke to the architects, and there's nothing actually happening right now. So it's disheartening to me, and I'm making a call out to all community to begin to come back and hold us accountable for involving ourselves as a city on skill building. I get worked up over this. Skill building for the youth. We got to do
it. Yes, Councilman Dabney.
Yeah, just a quick question. I would like to know what you guys have left in your ARP funds. I know you started with 23 million. What do you guys have left? And it's not a thing of not being cooperative with the schools, because I've supported the schools the whole time I've been here in Michigan City. But I know we're having revenue. We need revenue, and I'm just trying to figure out.
Yeah, again, I don't have the exact figures with me. We're actually going through those now because we have our end of the year reports now. But our dollars, our ESSER funds that we call them, right, that we have access to, are primarily used for learning loss. That's what the dollars that we have left that we're focusing on. Mm-hmm. The initial funds that we utilized were for HVAC updates and some security updates within the buildings. Mm-hmm. But the dollars that we have left are all planned for learning loss. How are we going to catch those students up for the next, in our next period of time over the next year and a half or so? A lot of dollars have been spent currently on our high dosage tutors, which are retired teachers or qualified teachers that are in the classrooms doing tutoring and paying a higher salary, obviously, to those teachers and those individuals to be in the classroom to help our students out. but learning loss is our major focus with our dollars.
I agree with all of that, but I still would like to know the balance of the ARP funds.
Just you can send that to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any additional questions from the council? Well, I can relinquish the chair to make a motion to approve it, or someone else can.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Support.
We have a motion by Councilman Sean Fitzpatrick and a second by Councilman Don Privilinski. Mrs. Dudley on the vote.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski,
Aye.
Ms. Tillman. Aye. Mr. Dabney,
Nay. So I asked for information I won't have in terms of making the decision. So I just wanted other information and I did not get. So nay.
Mr. Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Mr. Mack,
Aye.
Ms. Deutsch,
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski,
Aye.
Mr. Simmons,
Aye.
and Ms. Davis.
Aye.
That is 8 in favor and 1 opposed.
Thank you. Thank you. It passes. On to the next resolution, Mrs. Dudley, by title only.
A resolution by title only, 5th addition to the initial plan for use of the city's allotment of local fiscal recovery funds through the American Rescue Plan Act to allocate monies for capital equipment for the street department and refuse department. And this is introduced by Bryant Dabney.
Does the sponsor have any comments?
No comments at the time.
All right, thank you. Any comments from the public?
Yeah, Tommy Kolovic, 1316 Ohio Street. You know, eventually all this ARP money, the well's gonna run dry. I think it's time before over the next year, before you all leave us as a council, I think it's time that we impose the wheel tax on the residents. I've felt this way. Just about every other community in Northwest Indiana already has this on. It's not like you're asking us to give us our IRAs or our 401ks. It's like $40 every year when you renew your place, or $25 for a motorcycle, or a little more for a big truck. You know, we're going to have to go out for a bid. There was talk about buying the equipment to stripe the roads. Instead, they said it's not feasible to do that. We're going to have to get quotes to stripe our streets. You know, our street infrastructure is going to, a heck in a handbag. Just when you leave here tonight, just go up the street and look up Washington Street and see how badly that needs to be striped. I just feel it's time that would go a long way if we put that on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kolovic. Any additional comments from the public? Any additional comments from the public? Comments from the council? Any comments from the council on this resolution? Is there someone who can answer questions from the city? Can you answer, Mike? If we have questions?
Yes.
All right, come on up. I got some questions. Yeah. If you can kind of explain what's going on, because my biggest question is there ever been a capital plan, for equipment purchases or not? But if you can kind of explain what's happening and why there's a need, that would be appreciated.
Yes, I'll be happy to. The issue for us when it comes to refuse with the garbage trucks and stormwater related expenses is that we're very limited in the funds that are allocated to us for use. Unlike, for example, with the sewer operation, collection, and so forth, wastewater treatment facility, we have a user fee. So that allows us more opportunity to finance purchase. As it is with the monies that are allocated from the taxes, that basically covers our day-to-day operating expenses. As far as purchasing replacement equipment, I believe the district has relied in the past on the council to appropriate funds from the boat or other places. So as it is right now, we're
we're asking for funding for purchase of 3 garbage trucks and also for toters that are employed in for the residents to deposit their trash.
And can you state your name and who you are and what you do for the city? The people might not know on TV.
Yes, I'm sorry. It's Mike Milotovich, and I'm the general manager of the sanitary district.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. And before I move it on to the rest of the council, so do we collect any fees for our service, our trash service? Because everywhere I've lived, I didn't realize it until we start talking about this. Are we billed monthly or anything for trash service at all? Because everywhere else I've lived, we have been. So are we?
No.
Is it built in something? Or is it just a free service to everybody?
The only fees that we receive from residents is if there is a house pickup and a certain access amount of material. Let's say someone is replacing, doing some remodeling or something of that sort. If there's a large amount of trash, then there's a $50 fee.
But like toters, if I have 2 or 4 or 5, there's no extra fees for a resident to have a bunch of toters.
Normally, I believe residents get 2 toters, I believe, but I have heard of residents having more toters. Like yourself, I've never experienced, or I'm not familiar with other communities that do not have a monthly trash fee. Most communities in our area have a trash fee and also a stormwater fee, which neither of which we have in Michigan City.
Can you confirm that, Controller Hoffmaster? That we don't have any fees for trash service or anything, or?
Yes, that is correct. The stormwater fund and the refuse fund are funded solely with property tax dollars.
That's it. No fees for picking up garbage every day with all this heavy equipment and none.
Yes, that's correct. No fees.
Okay, that's good to know. Yes, Councilman Dabney.
And Madam President, I don't know how far you were going out on that limb, but I was actually going out on the limb to say we do need to start having some fee structure in place and have that money come back in to be able to pay for things like the tractors and the garbage trucks and other things like that. So that's where I stand. I know nobody wants to hear anything about an increased fee, but you want to keep your city running efficiently, and you want to be able to replace the equipment when you need it. And I do believe a fee structure should be in place. Not something over exorbitant to really, really put a dent in the city residents, but something needs to be collected in order to be able to supplement these types of purchases. So that's where I was going with it. When I clicked my light on, I really think we need to consider something like that. It's about time. Everybody else doesn't.
Yeah, we're the only one. So thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Just to let you know that the average age of our fleet of garbage trucks and similar vehicles is just under around 13 years old, which gets a lot of use day in and day out. Thank you very much.
Yes, Councilman Don.
Yeah, and just in response to the ARP funding, which we're going to use for these garbage trucks and these toters, or if it wasn't going to be that, it was going to be $3 million out of the riverboat, which right now we have 3.5 million or somewhere very close to that. So if you buy these garbage trucks and you didn't have ARP money, we were going to use the riverboat, and then we wouldn't have any money left there either. And I know that Mike and I have had this discussion. I'm the liaison with the sanitary district. And I've had this discussion with some of the board members that although we don't have a funding mechanism, I don't think the proper way to manage a fleet is to bring it in front of the financing body when all three of the trucks are sitting in a repair shop and you don't have any other means, correct? To go out and collect garbage. I mean, to me, collecting garbage is just like a fire service or a police service. You got to have health and safety in a community. You just can't wait till the trucks are broke down and then you come in front of the council and say, hey, you know what? We need $1 million to take care of this. And why it didn't happen in the past, I don't know. But moving forward, sanitary board needs to get a plan put together. The sanitary board, sanitary district needs to get a funding mechanism put together. And especially when I go by these apartment complexes and I see on Monday morning trash spewed out, beds, you know, pillows, dressers, beds, because somebody got evicted. Okay, is that the city's fault now? Do we have to pay for that? Because we are. We're paying, everybody in this room is paying for some landlord that just kicked his renter out because he didn't pay the rent or whatever the situation was. That ain't the way it goes. That guy kicked him out. That guy's expecting a service. Let that individual pay for that pickup. If it's $100, it's $100. We'll pick it up for you. But if you don't pick it up, we'll if you don't call us, we'll still pick it up. But we're going to put a lien on your taxes. Just like Vector Control does when they go out and cut lawn in the city. If you don't want to pay, they just put a lien on your property and eventually you're going to pay for it. I mean, you got to take a tough stand if we want things to get better. Otherwise, it's just going to keep going down the same road. So that's my suggestions.
Yeah, and just to move on, talk about that a little bit. A capital plan. I mean, had that conversation with the fire department too. We probably need something like that sooner than later. And then if you can investigate or have someone investigate, a finance person, investigate what other cities and towns are doing in our area, because I know for a fact that I know we have the best water in the region, but we also have like the cheapest bills in the whole entire region. I didn't even realize that our water sanitary bills like the lowest in the whole entire county, which is a good thing. Right. But when it comes to a clean city, this is important, and we're offering this, and that department costs. If we looked at the total cost of our employees, the trucks, the maintenance, and all of that, I mean, everybody's getting a deal. I mean, a really good deal. So, yes, Councilman Paul.
Well, first of all, I want to apologize to the superintendent for having to come in front of us after the last superintendent left us with this mess. I want to apologize to you, Mike, okay? And be forthcoming that I do understand that you need trucks. And I do understand about the problem about having these landlords kick people out. And that is an issue that needs a lot of massaging, because to get the money, and you got to have a priority ordinance set in place on what they need to do. And my thing is this. Did you ask the county, what is it, the waste board or recycling committee? Did you ask them for any kind of grant for these toters, or any kind of grant at all? I don't even know if they have a grant program, because I do know one thing. They increased our fees by 50% this last year. So, and I haven't got into their financial picture. I'm gonna support this ordinance this resolution, because I know that you got to pick up the trash. Otherwise, we're going to have our alleys looking really bad. We're going to have a rodent problem. But besides that, it is one thing people should realize when we're talking about this. Yes, we have the lowest rates. Yes, when I was on the council before, it was looked at to have a private collection come into town. And the cost was prohibitive. It was double.
Yep.
But besides that, they are running an efficient operation, but maybe we need to look at, not me, the plan. And because exponentially, when the rates go up, more money comes in. So you need to set that extra money on the side. And but besides this, the whole city's been hurting. We were left in the red. And these departments were, I'll say, they were left sitting in the back seat when it came to getting stuff repaired. The previous administration didn't pay attention to what needed to be. That's why you got 3 trucks that are in bad shape. That's why you got X amount of fire trucks that we need to give attention to the fire trucks. That's why we don't have any police vehicles. We got to lease all these vehicles out. How do you think this happened? And then somebody this to me is just, give me a break. But we do need to keep track of the money, because also by the prior administration, hook, line, and sinker got us into 420-acre annexation. That's going to cost over $7 million to the city of Michigan City. So we're going to definitely have to sharpen our pencils. But anyway, Mike, you hang in there. We're going to get you the trucks, but we're also going to look at this whole thing, as Councilman Don Prespolinski brought up, about, I know you guys been discussing about these multiple pickups.
Yes.
We need to start tracking them, and we need to start, putting the hammer down on these landlords. And somebody's going to cry foul, but I've lived in my house, I don't know, X amount of 25 years, and I think I've only had, and what they call them is extra. Is it an extra pickup, or what? Special pickup, yes. Or you're allowed what at this time, 1 a year,
right?
Or whatever. But some people, with these rental homes, it's just constant.
We are going to focus more on inspection. We're developing that program more so that we can address some of these situations with rental properties and others, so that we're not subsidizing someone's enterprise.
You said it, subsidizing their business. All right, I'm through.
We'll work with her. Excuse me.
All right, thanks.
I was just going to say, we'll work with our liaison, Don Prespolinski, Mr. Don Prespolinski, and with the council as necessary or appropriate.
Thank you. Councilman Mack?
Just to put out a note of agreement with everything that both Prespolinski spoke about on this, the subsidizing of private enterprise. We shouldn't be doing that. We should be trying to grow our city. So I agree with the premise of all of this and the need for that, but I will be voting no, based on the premise of what I had spoke of before. We are spending ARP money, and there's 4 million, I believe, left. And until I find out the reason why we can't get that request for a proposal on the athletic complex, that we had all these people come in here and sign thousands of signatures of this need, and this council is not going to come up with the style and the place and the ability to how big of a facility we could use here, and everybody else in our communities around us, surrounding us, have built and are building athletic facilities and community centers that help build what our youth need. To me, that is the primary deal. And we're going through ARPA money with every need that we have in the city. And back when I was in retail, we used to call it the power of and. Everything is not this or that or that. We can do this and that. And I'm not going to let that conversation go. And I'm hoping with every one of these votes on ARPA funds, until I can get to the bottom of why we can't get a firm to come in and analyze Michigan City and give us a study, a feasibility study on what is the type of facility that we can hold here in the city. I won't be voting for any other expenditures of ARPA money until I can get that. I just want to put it that is the only reason. I think it's a gravity to this subject. I think there's an urgency to this subject, and I think left to its own devices, we will spend on the legitimate needs of the city and ignore this because there is no constituency in this building right now screaming and hollering that we must have this in the city. And I'm hoping to get that back. So this can't just be under the rug and now we, put a roof on an existing building and call it a center. So that is the only reason I'll be voting no until I get some answers on this. Thank you.
Right. Any additional comments from the council? Additional comments from the council?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Jiggers and a second from Councilman Bryant Dabney. Mrs. Dudley on the vote.
Ms. Tillman,
Aye.
Mr. Dabney,
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Mr. Mack,
Nay.
Ms. Deutsch,
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski,
Aye.
Mr. Simmons,
Aye.
Ms. Zegas,
Aye.
and Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
Aye.
That is 8 in favor and 1 opposed.
All right, thank you. The resolution passes. Mrs. Dudley, I got to get used to saying that. The first ordinance by title only on the agenda.
An ordinance on first reading by title only, approving additional appropriation in the budget of the Riverboat Fund for the construction of a new fuel farm at the Michigan City Municipal Airport, introduced by Mr. Simmons.
Does the sponsor have any comments?
Yes, this new fuel farm request by the airport entails uprooting their in-ground aged tanks and putting them above ground.
And just a note, this ordinance was tabled on first reading until this meeting, and this has been published in the Herald Dispatch, October 19, 2022, for a formal public hearing this evening. So it's been laid back on the table. Any comments from the public?
Yeah, Tommy Glavick, 1316 Ohio Street. It's really important that this aviation fuel these tanks be above ground. My grandpa was in Arkansas. He served in World War II in the Army Air Corps. That's now the United States Air Force. And he taught me that when he told me that, it's really important if you're going to store fuel for a long time, you need to have it stored up above the ground because moisture will build up in your gas cans, your fuel tanks, and that'll cause serious problems with the aircraft or your engine or whatever. So I think this needs to go through. Thank you.
And again, this is the formal public hearing. Today is November 1st, and so this is the formal public hearing. Yes, please state your name, position with the city, and your address.
Jessica Ward, Michigan City Municipal Airport Manager. I'm here in case anybody has any questions for me. I know Don Prespolinski had a question from Baker and Tilly asking if we can use the bill funds to pay back the riverboat, and that question has been answered, correct? You got an email on that? Okay, I was told that you got an email on that.
Point of order. Yeah. So, Madam Chairman, I tabled this at the last meeting, okay, with the directions to the controller's office to get the answer from Baker and Tilly whether this money can be used or not. And I haven't received any information. I don't know if you have received any information, but what is the answer?
This email came from Baker Tilly the week I was on vacation, and I believe everybody was copied on that email. I will forward it again as when I go back upstairs. But the answer is yes, this BIL money can be paid back to the city for this project.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Dime.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to get an answer and so we knew which direction we're going into. But-
Sorry about that. I was
So
told that
it's
you were
all-
working on it, so that's what I thought. Got
The
it.
stage is all yours.
Answer.
The stage is all yours.
Right,
Okay.
so, so the fuel farm, we need above ground fuel tanks. Our old fuel tanks are underground and they're at their end of life. So we really need to move them above ground. We have the new program with the bill funds, which is allowing use for revenue producing projects at airports to be funded by bill money. So we're planning on reimbursing the city, from years 2 through 5, for the fuel tanks, which will leave the city with a total of, I think, like 100 and I don't remember what it is. Let me look. 128,669.32. That's what the city is going to pay for $800,000 fuel tanks in the end, but we would get the money up front from the riverboat and then reimburse. So if anybody has any questions right now, we don't have any fuel service for self-service avgas because we have maintenance issues with the tanks. So we have been out since June 16th, I believe was the date, and that's 60% of our fuel sales for avgas is self-service. So we're losing revenue. This isn't a short-term solution. Obviously, it's going to take a while for, to order the tanks and get them in and everything, but it's a step in the right direction. Our project for our extension for the runway, it's going to come in a couple of years from now. So we need to get some projects done before then. So we're ready for the expansion and we have the fuel that we need in order to service larger aircraft that come in.
Awesome. Any questions for our superintendent? No questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any additional comments from the public? This is our formal public hearing. Any additional comments from the public? With that being said, any comments from the council? Any comments from the council? This will be held over for second reading. Thank you. All right, Mrs. Detley, our next ordinance on first reading.
An ordinance on first reading by title only, approving additional appropriation in the budget of the ARP Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund for the 5th addition to the initial plan for use of a portion of the city's allotment of local fiscal recovery funds through the American Rescue Plan Act to allocate monies for capital equipment for the street department and refuse department, introduced by Bryant Dabney.
Does the sponsor have any comments?
None at this time.
All right, any comments from the public? Comments from the public? Comments from the public? Comments from the council? Any comments from the council? This will be held over for second reading. Mrs. Detley, the first ordinance on second reading.
An ordinance on second reading by title only, approving additional appropriation in the budget of the Riverboat Fund for the construction of a new maintenance building at the Michigan City Municipal Airport, introduced by Mr. Gene Simmons.
This was published in the Herald Dispatch on October 19th, if y'all look at y'all. 2022. Formal public hearing will be held this evening. Are there any comments from the sponsor?
Yes, the airport has outgrown the capacity of the building where they're storing equipment outside in the element.
Awesome, thank you. All right, any comments from the public? This is our formal public hearing. Any comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Any comments from the council? Any comments from the council?
Madam President,
Yes.
Could we possibly have third reading on this?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, move that we.
So we have a motion on the floor to move to third reading with a support by Councilman Paul Privilinski, Mrs. Dudley on the vote.
Mr. Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Mr. Mack,
Aye.
Ms. Deutsch,
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski,
Aye.
Mr. Simmons,
Aye.
Ms. Zegas,
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski,
Aye.
Ms. Tillman. Aye. Mr. Dabney.
Aye.
It is 9 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, with that being said, I will have you read the same ordinance by title only on third reading.
An ordinance on third reading by title only, approving additional appropriation in the budget of the Riverboat Fund for the construction of a new maintenance building at the Michigan City Municipal Airport. And again, this is introduced by Mr. Simmons.
Any additional comments from the sponsor? Any comments from the public? Any comments from the public? All right, comments from the council.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Sean Fitzpatrick and a second by Councilman Paul Privilinski. Mrs. Dudley on the vote.
Mr. Mack,
Aye.
Ms. Deutsch,
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski,
Aye.
Mr. Simmons,
Aye.
Ms. Zegas,
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski,
Aye.
Ms. Tillman. Aye. Mr. Dabney
Aye.
and Mr. Fitzpatrick. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Sorry, aye.
Thank you. That is 9 in favor and 0 opposed.
Thank you. So the ordinance passes. Mrs. Dudley, the next ordinance on second reading.
An ordinance on second reading by title only, amending section 50-283 in the Michigan City Municipal Code, known as the Fire Code Compliance Inspection Fee and Non-Emergency Medical Assistance Fee, introduced by Angie Deutsch, Bryant Dabney, Paul Prespolinski, Don Prespolinski, and Sean Fitzpatrick.
Madam President.
Yes.
I would like to ask Ms. Dudley if I could be added on as co-sponsor.
All right, thank you. And she notified the clerk's office earlier today as well. All right, comments from the sponsors. I will say that everybody has on their desk at their seat and amended some amendments that were put forth based on just some conversations that were had at the workshop. But before we get to that, are there any comments from any of the sponsors? Comments from any of the sponsors? Comments from sponsors?
Madam Chair, I did want to offer up these amendments.
Yes. Okay, we have a motion on the table for the amendments, and I'll read them out loud. And we have a second by Paul Privilinski, Councilman Paul Privilinski. And what has been added are the penalty for non-payment will be $100 on April 1st. Another penalty of $100 plus court costs will be added after July 1. All past due penalties and fines have to be paid before any additional, it's supposed to say inspections. I'll get that over to you. That's inspections will be completed, and all late fees outside of court fees will be placed in a non-reverting fund established. And then the only other thing that was added on the back page of it, it says said funding will allow the fire department to establish a community assistance and public education program. Those are the amendments. So we'll make sure that those are all clean, Mrs. Dudley. So we have a motion and a second by Councilman Paul Pribulinski. Mrs. Dudley on the vote to amend. This is on second reading, so all you're gonna do is this is just the vote to amend with the replacement. Yep.
Sorry.
No problem.
Sorry, guys.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you. Amending section 50-283 in the Michigan City Municipal Code, known as the Fire Code Compliance Inspection Fee and Non-Emergency Medical Assistance Fee, introduced by Ms. Deutsch, Mr. Dabney, Mr. Paul Prespolinski, Mr. Don Prespolinski, and Mr. Fitzpatrick.
And Ms.
then we will
Fitzpatrick.
add-
And this is just for the amendment that you're doing the vote on.
Okay. Okay. Ms. Deitch,
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski,
Aye.
Mr. Simmons,
Aye.
Ms. Zegas,
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski,
Aye.
Ms. Tillman,
Aye.
Mr. Dabney,
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Mr. Mack,
Aye.
and that is 9 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right. Are there any comments from the public on the amended ordinance? Any comments from the public on the amended ordinance? Any comments from the public on the amended ordinance? All right. Any comments from the council? Any comments from the council on the amended ordinance?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I want to make a motion to have third reading on this tonight also.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor by Councilman Sean Fitzpatrick and a second by Councilwoman Tracy Tillman to move to third reading. Mrs. Dudley on the vote to move to third reading.
Mr. Don Prespolinski,
Aye.
Mr. Simmons,
Aye.
Ms. Zegas,
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski,
Aye.
Ms. Tillman,
Aye.
Mr. Dabney,
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Mr. Mack,
Aye.
and Ms. Deitch.
Aye.
That's 9 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, now we will read the amended ordinance on third reading by title only.
An ordinance on third reading by title only, amending section 50-283 in the Michigan City Municipal Code, known as the Fire Code Compliance Inspection Fee and Non-Emergency Medical Assistant Fee, introduced by Ms. Deitch, Mr. Dabney, Mr. Paul Prespolinski, Mr. Don Prespolinski, and Mr. Fitzpatrick, and Tracy Tillman.
All right, got it. Thank you. Any comments from the sponsors? Any comments from the sponsors? Any comments from the public? Comments from the public? Any comments from the council?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
So we have a motion by Councilman Paul Pribulinski, second by Councilman Don Pribulinski. Mrs. Dudley on the vote.
We have Mr. Simmons,
Aye.
Ms. Zegas,
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski,
Aye.
Ms. Tillman,
Aye.
Mr. Dabney,
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Mr. Mack,
Aye.
Ms. Deitch,
Aye.
and Mr. Don Prespolinski.
Aye.
That is 9 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, thank you so much. So we are moving on to new business. Mayor Perry is asking the Michigan City Common Council for their advice and consent regarding his appointment of Miss Betsy Elsa Acer, I guess might be the name. I hope I didn't butcher it. My apologies. As a member of the Michigan City Tree Board, term will begin immediately and expire on July 1st, 2024. Is there a motion to give the advice and consent for Ms. Betsy Acer, sir?
Yes, I would like to move to appoint her because she is actually a certified arborist. So
Awesome.
we are having trouble getting a quorum on that. So that's really great. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion to accept the advice and consent of Ms. Betsy Acer. Is there support?
Support.
And we have support by Councilman Paul Pribulinski. Mrs. Dudley let me ask, is she present or online? Just to make sure before I but I want to give her opportunity. All right. Mrs. Detley on the vote.
Ms. Segas?
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski?
Aye.
Ms. Tillman?
Aye.
Mr. Dabney?
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Mr. Mack?
Aye.
Ms. Deitch?
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski?
Aye.
And Mr. Simmons.
Aye.
That's 9 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, unfinished business. There are 2 appointments. I know that letters have been sent and the nominations for the social status has the following appointments for the Michigan City Common Council. And we received a letter today. I know that we were advised of it previously through email, but the formal letter did come today. And this is the replacement for Mrs. Albertine Allen from Minority Health Partners LaPorte County to be replaced by Pastor Robert Johnson. And you all should have received your email, your copy of the letter today. I see that Mr. Johnson is here. I don't know if you want to say a few words or not. I will give you that opportunity to do that. And I will say the first correspondence I received was about 2 weeks ago, but we just didn't have it on letterhead.
Thank you, Madam President, and to this council. I've been asked to take a prominent and important organization, the Minority Health Coalition. And I feel that it's important that we keep everything in perspective, that the health of the citizens of this city is very important, whether it's mental, physically, society. And because of those reasons, I've been asked to take the helmet of this ship and take it a little bit further. So I pray that this council will be a part of what I believe that what we're going to do in this city for the will and the round health of all the cities of Michigan City and LaPorte. And your support will be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pastor Johnson. So with that being said, we have the letter here today. What is the will of the council? Would you like to vote on this this evening, or would you like to wait to the next council meeting? Yes, council.
To make a nomination for Mr. Pastor Robert Johnson on behalf of the Minority Health Partners.
Support.
All right, we have the nomination based on the letter from Minority Health Partners and a support by Councilman Paul Prespolinski. Mrs. Detley on the vote.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski?
Aye.
Ms. Tillman?
Aye.
Mr. Dabney?
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Mr. Mack?
Aye.
Ms. Deitch?
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski?
Aye.
Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
Ms. Segas?
Aye.
That's 9 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, thank you. The second appointment that we have is for the Michigan City Area Schools. I know at the last school board meeting, I don't have a letter. I was told by Assistant Superintendent Wendell McCollum that a letter was sent to the clerk's office, but I haven't seen one. So we will wait till the next council meeting for that one. And that appointment is going to be Dwayne Hurt. But I don't have a letter to be able to do anything with it. So that will still be held over to the next council meeting. All right, I'm opening up for comments from the public. Let me state this before we get started. State your name, your address, and as I stated at the last council meeting, we are not HR. Any personal issues with one another, you need to file a formal complaint with the council if you want it addressed by the council. But we are not here to be HR for any organization, any commissions or boards. It needs to be in writing for us to do that. We don't want to be in the middle of any name calling. We need civility here. So with that being said, go ahead, Mr. Kalab.
Yeah, Tommy Kalabic, 1316 Ohio Street. I have a public service announcement to make. The county is going to be conducting another one of their tax sales on December the 8th, 10 a.m. at the county fairgrounds. Those that are delinquent in paying their taxes, they need to settle up. For those that, if you skip 3 payments, the LaPorte County Auditor is going to sell your property. For all you lien buyers, there's going to be some great properties, usually about 300 Michigan City addresses on the sale, usually. A good chance to maybe get out of your rental and get home ownership, or maybe buy a vacant lot that you can have your family come over and have your barbecues, or a place for your children to go play, et cetera. I mean, time to get some of these properties back on the tax rolls and, elevate our local property tax base. I do have some bad news and some good news. A few weeks ago at our senior night game, Mr. Kevin Harmon had some of his photography equipment come up missing from the press box. He had a bag of his camera batteries, maybe some film that he had, and it never returned to him. Somebody was good enough to take up a GoFundMe account. Within a week, they just wanted $3,000 so he can replace his equipment, maybe upgrade his equipment. Well, in just less than a week, they more than exceeded that $3,000. Last I looked, he got $4,100 in that. So I think that's Kevin, he's been if anybody's had a student athlete and they're anywhere in the Michigan Sea, he's probably snapped their picture at one point or another. He's even got me. You can be sitting in the crowd, and you can even see yourself sitting in the crowd. He does a great job. So I just want to pass that along. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kalavic. Additional public comment.
Ernie Hollahan, 302 Gladys Street, Michigan City. I was listening to you read that mayor's. Why isn't he here to propose that? Why isn't he here to attend these meetings? They pertain to him too, as well as the citizens of Michigan City. He shouldn't be able to speak unless he's here to speak on his own, not propose something through this. Show himself. He's the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ernie. Yes, Mr. McCormick.
Rodney McCormick, 617 Union Street. Sorry for the way I'm dressed. We had a crisis out in Lakeland Estates. And I just we had one of our units destroyed, 15 juveniles with guns. It's a bad situation tonight for us. I just want to thank I think he's a deputy marshal. I don't know his name. Long Beach police officer showed up. For a while there, it was only me and a Michigan City police officer there by ourselves. And it was very frightening. But anyway, I'm sure things going to get better. I'm really came here to talk about the social status. As I said before, I like to leave things in better shape than when I came in and I came on. Minority Health left the social status last year or earlier this year, whatever way you want to say it, for 10 months. They didn't say a word. We have a lot of groups that's like that. Madam President, before you got on board, there were several groups, and we used Michigan Area Schools as one of the appointing authorities. I don't know how they came back after the letter that they wrote. They made it clear that they weren't going to come back. Ms. Allen said she wasn't going to come back because of the toxic environment and all those things. And now here they are back. No explanation. We don't know if they'll quit next week or next year. We keep putting ourselves in positions where we shouldn't be in. Each one of us as members, we need to do the right thing. It ain't just Minority Health. It's just they happen to be the last one that's on there. And the mayor hasn't appointed people or over appointing people, putting too many people on the board. It's just, we can do better than what we're doing. Cutting backdoor deals with the promises that you might remove somebody later on down the line, and that someone being me, in order for people to come back, is not what we should be about. And when I run for office, I'm gonna make sure I remember this day. I'm gonna put an end to that nonsense. We should not give in to anyone's threats. We should do what's right every day. You might not agree with everything I say, but I do believe in following our ordinance, and I believe in the oath that I took. When people leave our organization, and they said the way that it was said, that she should have at least came here and talked to each one of you city council members and said, I got to change your heart at this. Because we need to make sure that this don't happen again. Removing me is not going to be a solution or to the problem, because the problem existed well before I was even on the social status. So I hope you guys really consider what you're doing and think about what you're doing. There are people on the social status that means well. And as I said before, I've seen the Women's Commission. Every one of their members are women. It's called the Social Status African American Male. Our job is to groom young people to take our spot. And sadly, one of the ones I groomed was Nathan Patrick, and he was ran away. We got to keep putting African American males on this group. And African American males, if you hear my voice, and I'm glad I see some of the pastors coming on, and pretty soon we're going to have a whole pastor board. But I'm glad to see those males are coming on and joining us. We need all the African American males to join this group. And then when our time is up, we just pass the torch on to the next young generation of African American males. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCormick. Any additional comments from the public?
Yeah, Jeff Bruder, Fire Marshal. I just want to say that I want to extend my thanks to the council for the ones who attended the workshop that we had the other day. It was really good. It was productive. We accomplished what we set out to do. We got the ordinance amended for the inspections. I just want to say also to Mike, an aging fleet is not easy to deal with, and the fire department is going through the exact same thing. So you guys all know where we're at with that as well. So good for getting this passed, and we move on. Thanks.
Thank you. Any additional comments from the public? Any additional comments from the public? Comments from the council? Yes, Councilwoman Jiggers.
Yes, so I've got a couple of announcements. November is Indigenous Peoples Week, and Green Drinks is having a really special Zoom meeting on Thursday, November 3rd. The Accidental Environmentalist, A Potawatomi Woman's Journey. It's going to be an excellent meeting, and it's all virtual. If you want to find out more about it or read about it, you can check out my website, daliajigas.com. You can take a look there. I also have links to the ARPA grant application that goes to Unity. And I also have some links on Vote 411. So if you want to know about where to vote, when to vote, this is up on my webpage. Take a look when early voting is going on. I think everyone has to do their civic duty, find out about the candidates and vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional comments from the council? Yes, Councilman Don.
Yeah, Madam President, two things. First thing I'd like to speak on, and like this evening, we were speaking to superintendent of the sanitary district about fees and how low they are or the lack of fees. And then just as we just got done doing this evening with the ordinance for inspections, we all learned how low those fees were compared to communities around us. So that gives me the suspicion that a lot of our fees that we have in the city are not comparable to where they should be in the year 2022 to run a business of running a municipality. So what I'm going to suggest, and that's something that the council can think about, and then we can, put a resolution together, what have you, is possibly have Baker Tilly review all our fees that we have in the city and compare them to other cities our size, and then come back to the council and to the administration on where our fees sit with other cities. We did that with the salaries, and everybody put all their weight and hedging on the salaries study that was done. I think we need to do that with the fees and how we're operating. And we're not operating back in the 1980s. This is 2022. And we need to be up doing what we need to do to run a city. Okay, number one. Number two, for the sake of transparency, and this is what the city council is supposed to do, and that's the way I've always operated since I've been up here so far. And what I'm going to speak on is the Indiana Officers Standard Crash Report from the mayor's accident that he had back in August. And the city council is privy to that, meaning that anything over $1,500 in damage to a city vehicle or a city property, there's an ordinance that the city council is supposed to receive that information so that we know, so we can keep track of what's going on in the city. Before, there were things being wrecked and we had no idea about it until we would get a call from someone. So with that being said, there's ordinance 4538 that the city controller shall provide the common council, and I'm reading this just for general information for other council members, because I don't know if everybody is aware of this ordinance, but we did this back in 2019. And I was on the council, John Stimley, my brother Paul, and Sean. We all signed this. So, and it doesn't come about, very often. So I just wanted to refresh the council's memory on that. Anyway, the city controller shall provide the common council either directly or by submitting it to the city clerk for distribution to the council with a copy of any and all documentation, hard copy and digital, in the controller's possession and control regarding any damage to real or personal property owned by the city, including any of its department or agencies for which the city, included any of its departments or agencies, pays either directly or through insurance, $1,500 or more for repair of the damage. All right. So, and this report is public knowledge through the Michigan City Police Department. And the date of the incident was August 5th, 2022. It was a Friday. The weather was clear. Light condition apparently was dark. It happened at 9 p.m. and it happened in Washington Park. Willie Henderson was the reporting officer, and the following was written by Officer Henderson on Saturday, August 6th at 2022 at approximately 8 a.m. in the morning. Sergeant Henderson was advised by Captain Jeff Lineski that Mayor Dwayne Perry was involved in an accident overnight to which he left the scene of. I began to investigate and found the following to have occurred. Vehicle number 1 was traveling northeast bound through the grass area just west of the entrance to Washington Parking Lot 1. Vehicle 1 struck a water line which was vertically erect with a hub bib attached to the end of it. And as vehicle number 1 continued northeast bound, the water line hose hub caught a hold of the exhaust system to vehicle number 1 and completely ripped it off. Vehicle 1 then left the scene without reporting the accident. Driver 1 was later identified and interviewed at Castle Ford. Once arrangements were made and photographs of vehicle 1 were collected. The investigation was eventually turned over to the Indiana State Police due to a conflict of interest, which was established while formally interviewing the driver to vehicle 1 on a later date. And that was passed on to the Michigan City Police Department. And that's the end of the report. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Yes, Councilman Sean Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to add that on the past Thursday, we also had a workshop with the Planning Commission and Building Inspection Department to review just one of the chapters of the building code. And I think it was a pretty productive workshop. We got some healthy dialogue started. One of the things that did come up was following the common theme tonight of the fees. Seems like we're way behind in the permitting fees, and some of those processes should probably be automated or made to be brought up to, you know, a modern standard of how those things are acquired. So we're looking into that. It's probably going to be a series of workshops to address some more of those things. That code book is pretty cumbersome. So we only reviewed one chapter. It took us about an hour. So we'll probably be going through the rest of them over time to kind of get some more of the major issues addressed to make sure that we're dealing with that stuff efficiently. So that was all I had for tonight.
Thank you. Any additional comments from the council? Yes, Councilman Paul.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to appreciate Councilman Don Prisbalinski bringing that crash report to the forefront of the council and the public, because I believe that we've been lacking reports of crashes or damaged equipment. And also, I think we've been lacking on getting reports of lawsuits to the city. But I gotta say that this is disturbing, because I mean, I guess you don't have to report an accident now. I guess you can leave the scene of an accident. I mean, I always thought you're supposed to report an accident, and you know, it was a major infraction, but I guess it's not anymore. So this thing here, it goes, I mean, I don't understand it. I don't understand why it wasn't, you didn't stop, somebody didn't stop and report the accident. It's hard to accept. But on the other comments I have for this evening is that there's another ordinance out there that needs to be addressed, and it's about car usage in the city. And I think at the next meeting or in the future, we're gonna have to have a workshop on altering some of these ordinances, because now I think that this accident brings to light the fact that maybe we should lower the bar when something needs to be reported. But also, as we come on to a special time in November to celebrate Veterans Day, I want to thank all the veterans. I want to thank all the people that support the veterans, their kids, their families. A lot of those are what I call unsung heroes. And also, all the people who complain how rotten this country is, I want you to think about the graveyards in France. Think about that in November 11th. Thank you.
Any additional comments? It's Councilman Gene Simmons.
Well, if no one else is going to say it, I think this accident is a poor example of leading by example by our mayor.
Great, thank you. Any additional comments from the council? If not, I will close out the comments with a couple of items. First of all, Veterans Day, there's a parade this Saturday at 11 o'clock. I think there's still time to participate if you would like to. I know the Exchange Club has taken on the mantle of doing this. Friend of ours that passed on, Keith Harris, has took that on for several years and making sure that our veterans were taken care of here in Michigan City. Again, I have a military family. My brother did 20 years in the Army, husband 22 and a half years in the Army. I have a nephew in the Army, a nephew in the Navy, and our son is in the Air Force. So shout out to my godfather, my godfather Greg from Michigan City, my cousin Skip, and my uncle Ollie. They all served in Vietnam, and they're all from Michigan City and graduated from high school here. And then we have our very own Mr. Simmons, who's a veteran as well. And I just think that I hope everybody takes the time out to thank our veterans. War was different, really different back then. And it's nothing to shake our heads at, but to honor them as we should. And outside of that, with no other, if all minds are clear, like we say at church, if all minds are clear, I would call for an adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
So move.
We are adjourned. Have a good night, everybody.